Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the village board meeting of October 14th. Please join us in our pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Flores.
Trustee Harris Jones.
Here.
Trustee Willis.
Here.
Trustee Heiferman. Trustee Simpson.
Here.
Trustee Roman.
Here.
Mayor Holfeld.
Here, representing staff this evening. To my left, our village manager, Napoleon Haney. To my right, our village attorney who just completed his 25th Chicago Marathon, Chris Company. And he's not even tired. Actually, the audience is right. Our police chief, Denise McGrath, deputy fire chief, Steve Dion, Amy Zakowski, finance director, Angela Maceras, economic and community development director, Josh Furman, public works director, and assistant village manager, Aaron Zockel. The minutes of September 30th, any additions or corrections, trustee Harris Jones?
For me?
Trustee Willis?
No.
Trustee Heckerman? Trustee Simpson?
No, sir.
And trustee Roman. May I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
So moved.
Been moved by trustee Simpson, seconded by trustee Roman. Roll call, please.
Trustee Harris Jones.
Here. I'm
Trust-
sorry, aye.
Trustee Willis.
Aye.
Trustee Heiferman. Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Roman.
The minutes are approved. The claims list in the amount of $1,139,206.58. Comments or questions? Trustee Harris Jones.
Nothing for me.
Trustee Williams. Trustee Heckerman.
Answer.
Trustee Simpson.
No, sir.
Trustee Roman.
No question.
May I have a motion to approve the claims list, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved by trustee Roman, seconded by trustee Willis. Roll call, please.
Trustee Harris Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Willis.
Aye.
Trustee Heiferman. Trustee Simpson. Trustee Roman.
Claims list is approved. Of that $1,100,000 claims list, 3 items comprise the majority of that list. Our payment to the city of Chicago Heights for water was $357,000. Our payment to Ecom, quarterly payment for police and fire dispatch, was $99,000, and 1 month's village employees' health insurance, $286,000. That amounted to $742,000, or 65% of that claims list. Hear from the audience. If anyone would like to address the audience on any subject not on the agenda, please raise your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Amy from Illinois. I have another short chapter to share with you tonight, and I just lost my book. Okay. Get involved in good causes. Be active in organizations, political or not, that express your own view of life. It is gratifying to know that whatever the course of events, you are helping others to do good. Many of us can afford to support some part of a vast network of charities. When Americans think of freedom, we usually imagine a contest between a lone individual and a powerful government. But one element of freedom is the choice of associates, and one defense of freedom is the activity of groups to sustain their members. This is why we should engage in activities that are of interest to us, our friends, our families. These need not be expressly political. Václav Havel, I'm sure I butchered his name, the Czech dissident thinker, gave the example of brewing good beer. Insofar as we take pride in these activities and come to know others who do so as well, we are creating civil society. Sharing in an undertaking teaches us that we can trust people beyond a narrow circle of friends and family. The capacity for trust and learning can make life seem less chaotic. The anti-communist dissidents of Eastern Europe recognized the seemingly non-political activity of civil society as an expression and a safeguard of freedom, and they were right. In the 20th century, all the major enemies of freedom were hostile to non-governmental organizations, charities, and the like. Fascists created what they called a corporate system in which every human activity had its proper place, subordinate to the party state. Today's authoritarians are also highly allergic to the idea of free associations and non-governmental organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, I'm Jackie Griffiths, Gloucester, Illinois. Thank you all for being so welcoming to me. We appreciate it. I stood before you in July to announce that I was starting a community book club called Books Without Borders. I imagined a safe space to listen, learn, and connect, especially when it comes to things that both unite and divide us, including race. I imagined open minds, diverse perspectives, and meaningful dialogue. I also told you I'd come back and let you know how it went. So here's how it went. On September 11th, the Homewood Rock Shop hosted the first Books Without Borders book discussion, So You Want to Talk About Race. This book allowed us to ease into the conversation by providing common language and real life situations to talk about. We had an intimate and safe setting to learn and unlearn while respecting our different lived experiences. I had hoped that 5 people would show up to this grand experiment of mine, but we welcomed somewhere north of 20. Someone told me we need a bigger space. Not all the attendees read the book, and not all attendees were from Homewood and Flossmoor, but from Country Club Hills, Northwest Indiana, and Chicago Heights. I'd say the folks there fell into 2 categories. There was first the choir, Black and white citizens who are committed to building bridges, breaking barriers, and putting some of us on notice to do better. We had some trustees in attendance, clergy, school board members, and community leaders. The choir stepped in and stepped up, as you might imagine, because sometimes talking about race gives some of us the shakes. They were an insightful presence. But the second category of attendees are what I would call the curious. I don't know what brought them individually, but I got the feeling they wanted to know more, to understand better, to do better. This was the group, the curious, that didn't know much about systemic racism or white privilege or the talk that parents have with their young Black boys. Yet in their discomfort, they also stepped in and stepped up. They are my hope, and I know they'll be back. For me, there were some lessons learned for the next Books Without Borders book discussion. One of the things is this: I'll leave 20 minutes at the end of the evening to dive into ways to address or diffuse difficult situations. Here's something that came directly from one of the folks. How do you handle relatives when they're saying things that are racist or insensitive? My response, because she asked the question 5 minutes before closing, is, now that's a really great way to get ready for a gathering around Thanksgiving table, and we can talk about it at our next get together. I'm here tonight to tell you about the next book club. The book is stamped Racism, Anti-Racism and You by Jason Reynolds and Ibram Kendi. This book presents, in simple yet concise terms, the history and persistence of racist ideas in America. The authors ask us to be curious about segregationists, assimilationists, and anti-racists, and gently and sometimes not so gently, they remind us that being anti-racist is a lifelong process. This is being held on November 11th. On Tuesday, I realized that I was competing with Monday night and Thursday night football, so we moved it to Tuesday, November 11, 6:45 to 8 p.m. at Beyond Borders Cafe in downtown Flossmoor. The books can be purchased from Homewood Rock Shop and at bookshop.org. So I'll report back to you sometime in November or December, when I will then announce the book for our January meeting. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board this evening? Not on the agenda. Well, no. Well, that's what we talked about last.
Actually, these 2 guests, or I'm sorry, residents brought up a topic for me that I may not look like it, but I've had to talk with my daughters because they're biracial and they look Hispanic. So my I've seen, everyone's seen the YouTube of, I don't want to get into the controversy of it, but there are federal agents operating and picking people off the street. Don't you say they're picking off the street without even checking who they are, or I believe extra to constitution. My question is really for the police department is when they come potentially in our neighborhood and try to get my daughters, do I call the police or do I just try to deal with it myself? Will you protect us?
Police will respond to any calls for service.
Police protect us.
The police will respond to any calls for service that we receive and evaluate the situation as it evolves.
I think that is okay. Thank you.
Is there anyone else this evening? If not, Ms. Flores, the consent agenda.
We ask the board to consider a motion to pass, approve, authorize, accept, or award the following. Approve the appointments of Barbara Dawkins to the Economic Development Committee for a 2-year term ending on October 14, 2027, and Karen Gallagher to the Beautification Committee for a 5-year term ending on October 14, 2030. Waive competitive bidding due to standardization of equipment and authorize the purchase and installation of a replacement dump truck body for the 2009 International 7400 Tandem Axle Public Works Dump Truck from Kankakee Truck Equipment of Kankakee in the amount of $43,568. Pass Resolution R 3236 approving a jurisdictional transfer agreement between the Village of Homewood and the State of Illinois for Harwood Avenue between Pine Road and Ridge Road in the Village of Homewood, and approve an amendment jurisdictional transfer agreement between the Village of Homewood and the State of Illinois for Harwood Avenue from Pine Road to Ridge Road in the Village of Homewood. Pass ordinance M 2373, amending the table of the number of liquor license limitation by class, increasing the allowed number of Class 2 liquor license by 1 for Burkott Superfoods for their proposed location at 2345 183rd Street, subject to successful completion of the liquor license application process, and to authorize the village president to enter into an agreement with the Cook County Department of Health for the provision of environmental health inspectional services for the period of December 1st, 2025 through November 30th, 2026.
Mr. Kelly, you represent Burkott's. Would you please come up and tell the audience and the community a little bit about Burkott's and what you're going to be doing in the old Waltz location?
My name's Tim Kelly. I'm with the business development of Burkott Superfoods. We currently operate about 16 stores, most of which are in smaller towns, 10,000 or less. We're taking over the Waltz Food Center that's been a fixture for this community for, I believe, around 45 years or so. We're very, very similar to the store in a lot of regards. We're both family owned, local, and we're not a big box or anything like that. Currently, we're owned by Luke Terra, and he's at all his stores every week. And you're going to see a fair amount of changes coming forward in the next number of months. We will be spending millions of dollars renovating and updating the store. I'm sure everyone agrees it's maybe a little bit tight right now, and everybody wants to see a little bit of freshness. And I see some nods going on here. I think that's we're all in agreement on that. We look forward to it. It's got some great attributes. That's why we're buying it. But we think it could be a lot better. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the stores and spreading the word to your neighbors when you see the changes and the upgrades. Our specialty is in the meats. Groceries are groceries to a certain extent, and the meats is our specialty. Everything is choice or better. You'll see a lot more variety. And a few items that you may not have seen in the past and a better selection. So nevertheless, we look forward also to get involved in the community. We do that in all of our towns that we operate in, and so there's opportunity to there's something that you'd like to see that a grocery store could get involved with, stop by and talk to the manager there, and we'd be happy to give anything some consideration. And that's pretty much about it, I think. We're excited to be part of Homewood. It's very, very unique community, and you guys have just a phenomenal reputation that people live here, stay here for generations. And we hope to be here for another 45 years.
Thank you very much. We wish you much success.
Thank you much, appreciate it.
The staff there, many of them have been there for a long time. Are you going to be keeping the staff?
Every single one of them has
Yeah.
been offered.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
All right.
Is there anyone else has a question regarding the consent agenda? If not, board comments, trustee Harris Jones.
We're looking forward to you coming to our community and helping us out with, keeping the community going, flourishing, and keeping, as you said, meats is your specialty?
I'm sorry.
You said meats are your
Yeah,
specialty?
Yes, meats, our meat department will probably be twice as big as what's currently there.
Wow, okay.
Trustee Willis,
Glad to hear that, yeah.
trustee Heiserman.
As a wannabe vegetarian. Not quite, but, no, I look forward to you being there. I was there 45 years ago. I don't know if I'll be there 45 years from now, but I'll, certainly look forward to chatting there. Thank you.
Trustee Simpson.
I have a Burkotts in the town where I am the chief of police. It is, they have great partners with us, a great store, easy to work with, great variety, and the store's kept clean, very professional, so I really appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
Trustee Roman.
I can speak firsthand to your community involvement because you guys came in with a bang as one of our top sponsors for the PTA Glow Run for our school. So thank you so much. It was like, we were shocked at, you guys, it was, the news came out that you guys were buying Waltz, and I think like 2 days later, you guys were sponsoring our event. So thank you very much for that. And I'm excited to have you guys here in town. So
We're
thanks.
looking forward to being part of the community, and we need you guys to make it, and we'll be a great partner.
With that being said, may I have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda, please?
So, second,
Moved by trustee Roman, seconded by trustee Harris Jones. Roll call, please.
Trustee Harris Jones.
aye.
Trustee Willis.
Aye.
Trustee Heiferman.
Aye.
Trustee Simpson. Trustee Roman.
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved. Old business, discussion and staff direction for 183rd Street. Mr. Haney.
We're gonna get those lights so that everyone can see the presentation. Please. Yeah. So Mayor Board, want to introduce some of the staff that really did the lion's share work of this, sifting through this 4 or 5 year old data. Noah Schumer, Assistant Director of Economic and Community Development. Terrence Aqua, Assistant Village Manager. Joshua Berman, our relatively new Public Works Director of the year. They did the work. They actually sifted through the data. So just wanted to share some information with you and share some options. Just a quick walkthrough, remind everyone of the timeline. 1987, obviously, IDOT expanded 183rd Street. It's our understanding that Cook County and IDOT was expanding a lot of streets from smaller streets to larger streets during that timeline, simply because of population anticipation that more people would move to certain areas. Roughly July 2020, moving forward, there was a fatal crash on 183rd Street. So the village implemented some safety measures at Center Avenue and 183rd Street. I'm sure everyone remember the bollards that are currently there now. Early 2021, staff worked on an RFQ, a request for qualifications, posted for a traffic study to analyze, evaluate 183rd Street. We selected Burns and McDonald firm to complete that study. It was actually worked on throughout 2021. Fast forward, October, November 2021, Burns McDonald presented their studies to the board and to the public. They outlined roughly 47 mitigation strategies and their costs and benefit. One of these 47 mitigation strategies included a road diet or a 4 to 3 implementation. March, May 2022, staff implemented new safety improvements, including testing potential road closures, lane changes, and we went back to hosting some additional public meetings. May 2022, the village completed a pilot road diet. We're going to talk a little bit about that, using construction barrels to reduce the flow of traffic along 183rd Street, reducing the traffic from 4 to 3 lanes. September 2022, the village board authorizes the ITEP, that's the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program funding application, and use the road diet to solicit that funding. And for 2023, the village received a grant for $232,875 to reconfigure the lanes from the 4 lanes to 3. September 23rd and beyond, we learned that IDOT was going to require a full phase 1 engineering with some higher than anticipated costs. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We include those costs in our recent updated 5-year capital plan. And today, staff will present some potential options utilizing the data from this study. Now, it's important to understand. I understand Federal Highway Administration has studies. We are analyzing and sharing recommendations and options from this study. We want to be clear on that. Let's go move simple. Okay. Traffic study results. What did the traffic study tell us? Noah, what does the traffic study tell us?
Sure. Good evening. So this study by Burns and McDonald really looked at 2 things, kind of traffic and accidents. Regarding traffic on 183rd Street, it revealed it's an unusual street in that unlike most arterials in a suburban area, where you see a really high peak in the morning and a really high peak in the afternoon, the segment of 183rd Street that we looked at in the eastern part of the village here doesn't follow that pattern. Traffic rises kind of continuously throughout the day, peaks around 3 to 5 p.m. and then tapers off slowly after that. So a bit of a different road behavior than you see in other streets. Traffic volume decreases east of Dixie. 183rd Street is not a monolith. Average daily traffic drops from one end of the study area, which was at the viaduct and near Park Avenue, which is about 25,000 vehicles a day, very busy, to Halsted Street, which is about 12,600 cars per day. In the packet, there's also a number that'll show that whole segment from Dixie to Halsted together in 2024 was measured at having about 15,000 to 15,500 vehicles per day. So again, you see a real difference in traffic once you get east of Dixie. Changes in traffic volume were deemed to be unlikely. The engineers added a 20% increase in traffic that was modeled going forward, but expressed doubts that would occur. And then 2 lanes versus 4 lanes. There was a comment made by engineers that noted that traffic volumes east of Regal Road may be low enough to be handled by 2 lanes instead of 4. And then safety and accidents. The bulk of the study was related to safety and accidents, and they provided a comprehensive picture of accidents. Some key points to know: rear end crashes are almost half of all crashes on 183rd Street. That can be because of crashing into vehicles turning into driveways, left turn lanes that overflow and create a hazard for rear end crashes, or lane weaving behavior where vehicles kind of swerve out, don't see the car in the other lane, going at a different speed, rear ends them. However, angle crashes were deemed to be the area to prioritize. Over 50% of the 101 injuries or fatalities that were found in the corridor from 2016 to 2020 were caused by these angle crashes, which are at or near 90 degrees. You can think about, again, if someone backs out of a driveway, gets hit at a 90-degree angle, that's an angle crash. Many of the accidents weren't at intersections. They were noted that unlike some other arterial corridors that you look at, you have a lot of accidents that happen away from intersections, likely due to the number of driveways and that lane weaving behavior that was mentioned before. And then finally, a high accident and injury risk is present. 18% of crashes had injuries, which isn't unusual, but 55% of those crashes reported some sort of on-site treatment or evaluation or medical transport. So something a little bit more serious. 45% were self-reported or no injury or very, very minor. So just some things to know about the safety situation going on 183rd Street. So what to do about that? I think Napoleon will speak to kind of what was the result of that study.
So what was the outcome, the overall outcome of the traffic study? Again, the study provided roughly 47 mitigation strategies, lists of mitigation strategies to reduce speed, reduce traffic accidents, obviously. So the road diet, again, the 43 conversion was one of those strategies. The other strategies included a new traffic signal. We talked about that ad nauseum, potential traffic signalization at Center Avenue and 183rd Street. Also one-way conversions, i.e. Gottschalk Avenue, blocking off Gottschalk at 183rd, making it one-way. Intersection reconstruction improvements, allowing for people to have easier egress across 183rd Street. New turn lanes, and this also includes medians and turn restriction. So this is just a blown up example of what the road could look like. Obviously, it's not to scale. This just want to make sure everyone was aware of what the road diet could potentially look like. So diving right into the options, I'll take option one. So one of the options is to perform additional analysis and study. The option is to perform additional traffic study to better understand the short and long-term adjacent street impacts resulting from the changes to the current configuration. Obviously, road diets 4 to 3 is going to have a massive impact, not only to the side street, intuitively, side streets, potentially 187th Street, potentially Ridge Road, and traffic, overall traffic, as far as congestion is concerned. Some reasons to commission a new study, out of date and small sample size. This information was taken and this study was done in 2021. A lot has happened since 2021. A lot has happened. The last study was commissioned in 2021 during the right at the end or closing of the COVID-19 pandemic. Conditions have changed. Also, the study relied on a one-day traffic count taken in April. That's not uncommon, but it would be nice to find some additional comparative traffic counts over a longer period of time. The need to address current concerns. The new study will focus on specific issue like speeding, school vehicles, emergency response needs, side street impact that we mentioned about 187th Street, Ridge Road, and winter driving habits. We all know people drive differently in Illinois when the snow begins to fall. Also, comparative information is needed. We would hope to see an impact analysis to compare traffic on other Homewood corridors, not just 183rd Street as a blanket isolated study. We want to look at some traffic modeling as well.
Step in for this one. So option one, you have a study, we can tailor it to our specific needs and what we want it to look like. Option two, fund the 183rd Street road diet reconfiguration. So this would be finding funding and starting to move forward with the engineering work necessary to complete the configuration that we received the previous grant for, and that's been discussed by the board previously. Some kind of key things to consider about this option. First is that we did receive the ITEP grant in 2023 for $232,000. That can cover engineering and construction costs for this project. That money expires in 2027. So if it is not used or allocated by 2027, it expires and disappears. The village did put $400,000 in the as a or slated it in 2027 in that 5-year capital plan that again sets that money aside regardless of grant funding. So that doesn't have an exact funding source, but it is included in that plan as something to spend money on in the future. And then it's just worth noting, as we look at this project and we consider the costs of it, the previous pilot program that we did didn't really simulate real world conditions. It used construction barrels. It was done for a very limited duration of time, which obviously creates some study limitations. So while it did show some results in terms of reducing speeds, we also have to paint that in a broader picture and think about, again, the data that we're using to establish this option. So just some more examples of what this would look like. Again, I want to emphasize that these are all conceptual. The final layout of what a 4-to-3 configuration would look like would be determined through engineering, through the design work that's done by traffic engineers, looking at this segment and during the process of engineering and design. So here's one example. Here's another example that's a little easier to see. These were just included from the just some examples from Burns and McDonald when they completed the study.
And we use a lot of terms, so just want to clarify the phases of a construction project. Phase 1
Yeah, sure, I can grab it.
I'm already in it right now.
Mhm.
So phase one would be your engineering phase, right? That's where all of the studies and analysis are done. Phase two would be the design, to actually create a plan to make sure what phase one looks like will work. Phase three is obviously a construction. So you'll see a lot of this when we talk about phase one, phase two, and phase three. We're talking about engineering, design, and construction as the ending phase three.
All right, and then just to put some dollars and cents to what this would look like, with some updated cost figures that staff has collected. So we get the ITEP funding. This is an 80-20 program. So you see the first line, $186,000, that's that 80% coverage of the cost of the $232,000. We also received some additional state assistance, that covered part of our local match. So we'd be left with just $23,000 to pay of that grant money, or in that grant program. The phase one engineering cost, staff collected recent 2025 estimates. That cost would now be $288,100, but that includes a full traffic study, environmental review, preliminary design, everything that goes into the state required phase one engineering. So to go forward with this project with the ITEP funding, the village would be looking at a cost of $101,800 upfront. And then TBD costs for the final design, that phase two, and the construction phase three following state standards. That cost would be determined through the phase one engineering program.
And we have no idea what that phase two design and phase three construction may cost.
Correct. And then there's sub option two, which we would be to proceed without that ITEP funding. We would still be required to do the phase one engineering, and it would be really beneficial for us as well. Full traffic study, full review, all the design work, really looking closely at the corridor. And then design and construction, though, doesn't have to follow the same stringent standards for phase two, the final design, and phase three construction, that you would have to follow if you use the ITEP program. So while you still have to pay the engineering costs for phase one up front, there's some more flexibility and potentially some savings later on with the design and construction of the program, and it could be implemented a little bit faster. So there's a bit of a trade-off depending on which sub option you consider.
So it's option one and two.
Option
Josh?
three, option three is going to be pursuing some options where it's no reconfiguring, 4 lanes remain. And we have an increased police presence. You might choose one of the many 47 options for mitigation, those being large and small. An example of one of those large options is a signalized intersection at Center Avenue. Smaller option might be turn restrictions, right turn only, left turn in a period of time when flashing, or no left turn at all. Slide. It kind of goes over some of that, what I just mentioned, the targeting of police presence, having a monitoring of the speed, police presence for enforcement of what's going on out there. And again, the additional signage with some restrictions. There might be some feedback signs. Some of those that we've been driving around today may have seen 4 of those that are out. We have 2 on 183rd and 2 on 187th that are brand new, monitoring east-west traffic. They flash at you, they monitor your speed. And then again, the turn restrictions, right turn only, left turn. That period of time.
So this option, just to note, is also very flexible. We can choose one of those bullet points we see here. You could choose a combination of them over time. So option 3 gives a little bit of flexibility on alternatives that we can use.
And chief of police is here to kind of drill down into what that fully targeted police enforcement could potentially look like.
Potentially converting 180 Third Street from 4 to 3 lanes is a big deal. And so it could create significant changes, not only for those who live along 183rd Street. It would create changes for everybody that lives in Homewood, and then those who travel through Homewood. So something the board could consider as a non-binding referendum. So it could be used as a public vote to measure community opinion. And so this is something that the board wouldn't have to be bound by to move forward with. It's just a way to gauge how the community feels. And so attached, you'll see a schedule of the process we'd have to go through starting on December 15th and ending March 17th with the primary election. And so in the board memo, we also included some possible questions. We work as a staff to come back to the board and detail and hammer down what those questions would be.
So just an overall review of the summary of options. One, perform additional study, obviously refresh our data. This information was actually taken in 2021 at the end of COVID. Things have changed dramatically along 183rd Street and in America, along Halsted and Homewood in general. So we perform additional studies, just kind of revamp that data and get some more comparative information, not just look at 183rd, but also look at some of the impacts that weren't necessarily identified in the first iteration of this study. Second option would be to fund the 183rd Street road diet reconfiguration, but understand there's some costs there. We did receive a grant funding, but there's some additional costs that the village would have to outlay. One for engineering, 101,000 for engineering, but there's a phase 2 and a phase 3 that we would have to find the funding for. And again, we have no idea what those costs could be. The next option option 3 would be pursue alternative corridor safety improvements. That could be locked down 183rd Street with police present, make it so uncomfortable that no one in here would ever want to drive down 183rd Street ever again. Chief can make that happen. And I'm sure you guys have seen this happen in other communities. We can make that happen. The other option is option 4, consider input with the non-binding referendum. Again, that would go as a question, and when it says question, it would pose itself on the ballot as a question. Should 183rd Street remain a 4-lane roadway? That would be the question, and everyone would vote. Or it could be that the antithesis, should a 4-3 diet be considered for 183rd Street? That could be the question on the ballot. So those are our summary of options. Again, we're not refuting, staff is here, not here to refute any Federal Highway Administration studies that have been performed or done. We're taking the data that was gathered from this 2021 study, and we're just sharing some options that the board may want to consider. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We can get the lights in the back, please. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
comments from anyone in the audience? Yes, sir.
Actually, we did last month, but before I indeed. Like to speak on this?
Just for the record, your name, please.
Yes, Stephen McDowell, resident of Homewood, 25 plus years. I lived on, wow. So I'd like to speak on this. I mean, give you a little bit of my background. As a resident of Homewood for 25 plus years, I'd like to address my concerns on the 4-3 idea about what individuals would like to talk about. I was a designer for 20 years with several big engineering firms in Chicago. Parsons is still around, and Earth Tech, which is, well, it was changed, but it's now called Earth Tech. My experience as a designer, we worked on the Millennium Park reconstruction, Michigan Avenue, Wacker Drive, and reconstructed. That was part of the I-80 Torrance Avenue reconstruction, and several other projects within the city and around the country, some bridge projects as well. And as a former Fight Club member, I can speak to some concerns about, riding the streets. I personally don't like riding the streets, but this is my personal opinion, because there are no hoops when it comes to a person or bike and a 5-ton car or better. Some people think that, it's a great place for kids to go who are unstable. You see them all the time, so I think that's even more concern. But my big issue is, I'm glad you guys pointed out the additional studies. In my history as a designer, I also did traffic studies years ago, out in Schaumburg, out in several other communities where they actually did traffic studies to understand the flow of traffic, how it affects lights, because it's not just traffic. You also have how that traffic is going to impact your traffic signals all the way back and all the way forward, and whether another community wants to adjust their signals to accommodate your traffic. So with that in mind, I personally do not believe that cutting down 4 to 3 is a wise idea. We're gonna see a large amount of traffic getting blocked up and pushed all the way out. And I think the additional studies will actually show that. If the study ended in 2021, we were basically shut down. I'm no longer a designer. I'm on the IT side. We had to gear up to get people to move, to go home, so people were still at home. Now, a lot of people are being forced to come back in, and that's going to put a lot more, putting a lot more traffic out there. You can see that what we had in 21 is nothing compared to what we have now. There's a lot more traffic out there. You guys can see that with the studies, but the studies will definitely provide that information.
Mr. McDowell, your time's running short.
Okay.
It's 3 minutes. Okay, just wrap it up, please.
So again, my experience as a designer, as a traffic studies, I believe the best option right now is to perform the additional studies to show that having that kind of traffic, to try to reduce that traffic is going to cause a city problem. We have a lot of new restaurants and stuff that we're trying to build up. Now we're going to be forcing people to divert around the city. Well, they won't be going to the restaurant. But when you look at the other villages, you look at Country Club Hills, they expanded their roads. You look at Orland and Tennessee, they expanded their road. You look into Indiana, they expanded road. We're the only one talking about reducing roads in a short span, just to say what.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you're okay.
It's it's a 3 minute. Shouldn't say.
Thank you. Jen Lewinsky, I live on 183rd Street, lived here my entire life. Last time I was here, I talked about my daughter, who was a new driver, who was terrified of pulling one of our driveway. So, kind of in reaction to some of these options with, changing the lights and turns and, all that part in the cops. Cops can only do so much. They're out there all the time. I see them in the temple. They pull over in front of my house, left and right. It stops for a second, cars go blowing by when the cops aren't there anymore. It can't be there 24/7. As far as asking people to obey traffic signals or do turn lanes or prohibiting, not gonna happen. Daughter that was afraid pulling on the driveway got in an accident the other day because at the park where those galleries are, someone didn't want to turn the correct way. Went down, pulled a U in the middle of the street, it was raining, she had slammed on her brakes, she would run into somebody. So if you're not gonna listen to new traffic patterns. And then finally with the referendum, love to be able to get the community input. People don't show up for elections anymore to vote. I'm sure we all know the last election just for village officials, it was a low turnout, it was shockingly low, quite honestly, that considering they're voting on the people that are really affecting our decisions, it doesn't really low turnout. I just see that that's going to give you a good idea of what actually the community wants. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me get some input from fire and police, first of all, with regard to the alternatives. Police, Chief McGrath, you.
I'll also keep it to 3 minutes. A lot of my thoughts have already been expressed in some way, shape, or form. Whenever this question comes up, and I've been asked it repeatedly, is how do I feel about this? I keep saying I don't think there's really enough information to make a well-informed, educated choice about going forward with the road diet. The study that was conducted, 4 years old, limited time on traffic counts and impact. The configuration of the road diet was up for 2 weeks and really didn't simulate real world conditions. Whenever you do something of that magnitude, there's always going to be unintended consequences of that. And we haven't really taken a deep dive into what those potential unintended consequences could be. Because that's going to impact not only the other east and west roadways, Ridge Road 187, obviously, but all of the side streets in there as people try then to evade the traffic on 183. And I think those are the things that need to be studied more in depth to make a good, well-informed decision about what is the best course of action. The other thing I would comment on is that the other mitigation items on that list, there was never really a deeper dive done into what impact those items would have on calming traffic and reducing accidents and things like that. We certainly know from hearing other people speak at previous board meetings that there are success stories for road diets out there. But for every success story, there's probably also, I've looked at a few of the studies where it has failed. But what we haven't really had time to do is look at the factors that made one a success and one a failure, and how those correlate to the conditions in Homewood.
Your 3 minutes are up.
Did I go over?
Your department, Chief Dion.
Thank you, Chief McGrath, for taking most of the conversation that we had. And we understand the concerns. One of the things that concerns the fire department mainly is 183rd Street is one of our main response corridors. And I believe it will negatively impact our ability to safely and efficiently respond across town, east and west. One of the biggest concerns in the fire service right now, and it was some of the statistics I pulled up, is that the U.S. Fire Administration still is, shows vehicle crashes and struck by incidents are persistent leading cause of firefighter on-duty traumatic fatalities. So we all know that drivers are distracted out there today. One of the things killing firefighters, even police, on an ever-increasing percentage is distracted drivers hitting us, hitting our firefighters at a crash scene that's already there. So we got to look at what's the impact of taking a 4-lane road down to 3 to a center turn lane when we are responding down that road. And with the distractions that are still out there. Chief McGrath and the rest of the staff had talked about the study being from 2021. The other concern that I brought up in some of the meetings is that if we think about our viaduct heights and assistance coming into us, we have to specifically build our fire engines and fire trucks to go under the North Viaduct because of the height. So you have 159th Street, you have 183rd Street, and then you have Route 30 as far as getting truck traffic east and west through the community. So not only assistance coming in for us with larger apparatus, but in the overall study of this, what is that going to impact as far as truck traffic east to west through our community if we bottleneck that down? Our main concern is safety of the residents and safety of our responders while we're there and on the street. But those are some of the concerns that we have.
And how would you review your opinion as far as the options that are available?
Perform more additional studies to see what the impacts would be, but also can look at how is that going to impact if we have a response on 183rd Street. We talked about some of the concerns that have come up about backing out of driveways and other things that people going around. If we have a fire apparatus parked there, they have to go around to the left side in that turn lane some way. And some different, so looking at traffic coming in, you can't see around a lot. I think we're going to create blind spots with our apparatus, but it's also with the distractions and the rest. So our recommendation is either don't change it or do additional studies to come up with a little bit more clear and new data.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Jose. I'm a resident of 183rd. I really do this, but I did write down some things to keep myself on track and keep myself concise more than anything. So I have lived in Homewood and on 183rd for only a year and a half, but the process and discussion on the lane reduction and street safety has reaffirmed why we moved here in the first place and why Homewood is such a unique and special place. A place where public discourse is encouraged and rarely devolves into discord. A place where anyone can sit with the mayor on a Saturday morning and share a conversation as well as an apple. So these are great things. I don't see the topic as being exclusive to 183rd residents, or even see it as really a speeding issue. I see it as a topic of being a community issue about communal safety, quality of life, and also village character. And I also see it as a legacy project for this board of trustees and mayor. Despite voting to move ahead with this in 2022, there is now some hesitancy in moving forward, and it has been articulated wonderfully here with the options. I really thank you for all the work that you've done so far. But no one has argued the overall safety concerns and that it's not needed at all. Only kind of brought up the difficulties and logistical concerns of the solution, never that a solution is not required. So currently, just to kind of get into some of the details as I see them. Currently, anyone turning left into their driveway or side street has to come to a dead stop in an active lane of busy traffic. Constantly looking in the rear mirror, hoping that the person behind them isn't on their phone. As was noted in the 2022 study, this was a significant cause for rear end and angle crashes. A turn lane solves this. Currently, delivery trucks, again, have to come to a dead stop in an active lane of busy traffic. There's no such thing as pulling over. In my opinion, this is the same as traffic stops and emergency vehicles. There is currently no place to pull over for our first responder safety. A buffer lane between the traffic and the curb changes this and will help traffic flow around people pulled over more easily. Moving partially and momentarily into a center lane, which will not be an active and busy lane of traffic. Lastly, and in my mind, most importantly, the buffer lane distances traffic from children, pets, and those with disabilities trying to walk on the sidewalk. No one should ever feel unsafe on a sidewalk, and yet that is the reality for long stretches of 183rd. You've done so much good work to make this village what it is, and no one is strongly disputing that the plan will make us will not make it safer. Only the logistical difficulties remain through the volume of cars moving through this now very active corridor. So let's not just accept this at what let's not just accept only for what it will become, a village not as safe as it could be on the way to someplace else.
Thank you. Okay, ma'am.
Hello, I am Angela Thomas. Most of you know me, my family, my husband and I own Thomas Photographic on the Dixie Highway. And most of you know my daughter, Ellery, who is 6 years old. So I just want to kind of give a little bit of background story. I live on 183rd, and I'm also next to the temple on the other side, and it's not safe. I walk or bike my daughter to the Willow School twice a day. We go there, we go back. We are a one-car family. We either have to walk or we have to bike, or I can put her on the bus or a 85-minute bus, right? Which I'm not going to do. So crossing 183rd is very difficult in the mornings. One of the best examples I have is one morning we were standing at our curb and we were waiting to cross the street onto Loomis. And a car I could see turning right out of Center. Center is very far away from Loomis. Look at the other way, it's clear. So I say it's time to go. And then I look back and I had to shove my kid off of her bike back onto the sidewalk because the car that was at Loomis is now going 70 miles an hour, slams on their brake right in front of my house where I was shoving my kid out of the road. The fact is that there's no way to slow down from Aberdeen to Regal. Putting a light at Center still makes a problem from Center Road to Regal, where cars can speed up to 50, 60 miles an hour. It's not going to change things. Addressing what's our fire chief said. The traffic right now, when there's an ambulance, and I see it all the time because, again, by Loomis, there's always that house, there's one here and there's one here that get a lot of police and ambulance activity. And I see it. And what happens is they take up the lane and people are zooming around. So now we have a bike lane, you're in the bike lane, only about a third of that emergency vehicle is in the driving lane. And it's easier for people to get around through that center turn lane. things that I've seen that you guys have done as well. So at Center, there's now all those homes. I see on a daily basis, people making U-turns at those homes. I have been at the light at Aberdeen, sitting at a red light, watched another car pull up, see that there's no one going the other direction, and that car runs the red light. I have seen so many different things. We need something for my kid to get to school safely. I can't take her down the sidewalk. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, it's all garbage cans and there's holes in the middle of the sidewalk. I can't tell her to ride next to the grass because again, the pole is there. So now she's going out and if there's a garbage can or anything else, there's nowhere for my kid to be on a sidewalk. So how do we get on the street? If there's a center turn lane, we can go halfway, stop, wait, go the other halfway. One other story I want to share with you. I had a situation, I have to turn left into my driveway. And every time I start to turn left, I turn my blinker on before the temple because I have to make sure no one's behind me. Look in my rear view mirror, then I start to brake, then I can turn into my driveway. One time I did my steps and then I'm waiting to turn and I hear the screeching of the car behind me. And the car was not going to stop. I start going. The car behind me finally stops the rest of the way. The car behind them hits them. It would have been a 3-car accident if I had not been watching my rear view mirror, making sure I was not going to get hit. I had my kid in the car. It's not safe. We have to do something. And I just don't understand the point of doing another study when we know we have to do it and it was already approved.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Jennifer and I live on 108 Garden Street. I just want to address a few things. One is, it's been 5 years. So if we've already waited 5, how much longer do we have to wait? This is an issue of injury to our bodies and to our property. So, I believe that we can do an and both possibly, where we have more police presence as well as doing something for the road. Whether it is the 4 to 3 or something else, I think it's an and both. I think as far as emergency vehicles, it is a matter of saying, hey, if the lane is blocked, perhaps then you block traffic from both ends and reroute them for the temporary period that there may be an emergency vehicle there. But to me, if we don't do something, it's a statement that our lives just aren't of value. That's what it means to me, because I have family there, whether they're young or old, as well as for myself. So I think we really need to consider an and both and not waiting. If we're looking for a pole, use the people who live on 183rd Street. Perhaps include those on 187 and those on Bridge. Use us to help determine if it's needed and to give ideas and things of that sort. Support, but to use other people and to wait longer doesn't seem like we're really addressing the problem with any sense of emergency and sincerity. Also, if we're looking at cost as a factor, it seems to me that the longer we wait, the greater the cost to do this. So just things to consider, and that's my.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Griffith. I live on Center Avenue. Like the other engineer, I'm a semi-retired engineer, 40 years doing this type of capital analysis all over the place, presenting to executive boards on where to spend the money. I read the 2022 report that showed that we should go forward with the road diet. There's a lot of back and forth here, but I'm going to boil it down to a couple of things. One is priorities. 183rd Street is unsafe.
need to prioritize, we're gonna have a safe road through Homewood. Or we're gonna prioritize vehicles getting through and have an unsafe street. That, I'm willing to down that. There are a lot of mitigation factors, there are band-aids we can put on this. But when I deal with my analysis, what I used to do is find the root cause. The root cause is a highway designed for speed through Homewood. We can do little speed cameras, we can do mitigation, but the problem is it's designed as a highway through Homewood. So I think you actually have two options. You can keep deferring, delaying things. I think you should actually just rename it Homewood Highway and just say that's what it is. Or make it a road diet and make it so that people who live in Homewood can cross the street, can live on the street and be safe. I think you have two options. Now you can defer it. I don't think that's the right thing. You have enough information. You're never gonna have it perfect. I know it was road cones and it looked crazy, but it showed to me that yes, it slowed traffic down. Even the report in 2022 showed that traffic volumes, speeds were reduced, and that's what we're talking about. Sorry, one of my Canadian now. I've got Canadian relatives. So I'll leave it there. There's a lot of factors, and first, Mr. Heaney and the staff, in terms of capital presentations, top notch. But I think it really boils down to two choices. You're going to leave it unsafe. It's going to be the Homewood Highway, or we're going to actually make it so we can live in Homewood and cross the street with our kids, ride our bikes to the train station. I don't do it because I ride it to Walsall because it's too unsafe to come in. So I think you got two choices. Keep Homewood Highway or actually make it over the street. Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak this evening? Yes, ma'am.
I have one question and then one comment. If the concern is cost, but one of the other suggestions is a stoplight being constructed on Center, what is the cost of constructing a stoplight?
No, you know.
I think it was like 120 something.
No, it's more than.
Stoplight would
Sorry.
require a phase one, that's a requirement from the state, so the design and implementation and construction costs of that would be a TBD at this point, but we did have some, that to pull it up. It's 110, roughly.
For engineering.
250 here on.
I didn't have this.
On that phase.
That particular intersection is an offset intersection. It should have been signalized years ago.
So other comment
Yes.
is, the under the study, the conclusion states each segment that was studied had a rate well over one crash per million vehicle miles traveled, which is the target. To have crashes at or less than that. And so that is a common target for these types of studies. I would say that a light on Center isn't dealing with the rest of the road. So. Yep.
Thank you.
It's $170,100
For this initial study.
for the phase one side.
Phase one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Is that just for the stoplight?
Is there anyone else? No, that's phase one.
That's just the
Engineering.
phase
Phase
one,
one of that intersection.
just that intersection.
Right ahead.
Well, I'm Joel Cupo, with Homewood, with Ridge. A couple of things, a lot of things I feel like a lot of people who are from Red Diet already said, so I'll skip over those. But some of the questions were said too, like why was there a delay in this happened while we were studying this before? And even talking about the test with the barrels, how it didn't see the real world. It didn't, it seems more built to fail, kind of, if you will, because you can see a lot of cones in the roads, they're gonna drive weird. The turn lane wasn't there, it seemed like if that worked well, it would work. much better with normal road. Yeah, I guess my biggest thing is why did it take 3 years, 2.5 years or whatever it was since it was approved, and then all the studies were done, got the money from the state. And then nothing happened. And then to one of the points where we're talking about the option 3 was add police presence on the street. I don't see why that's even something that would be considered. Why don't we just add police presence on the street regardless? Like, why does that have to be part of the invitation? I guess those are my biggest points, or I don't quite understand why I have those things doesn't happen. Safety seems like the biggest concern, and it seems like a good way to make the street and the town safer is the road down.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jack Ryback. I live in the 1700 block of 183rd Street. I just had a radar thing installed right in front of the house. Thank you, Public Works, for not having it right in front of the front door. Over it. I will say with the installation of that and one on the other side, traffic, well, I haven't seen so many red taillights in my life. I've lived on that street for 36 years. I know how much it's changed and how fast things are. It's only been 36 hours, but I appreciate you doing something. It has slowed down for now. Although once they get past it, it's back to 7, but it's something. Thank you. I appreciate all this work, everything you're considering. Personally, I'm still for the road diet if you're seeing all that. But before you make your decision, I invite you to walk down the north side of 183rd Street from Dixie to Highland. Most any time of day, and see how scared you are walking down that portion of the street. Because there's nothing between the sidewalk and the street. And that's it, it's dangerous. If there's a bike path put in there, the bike part of it put in there, at least there's a buffer there. There's something, so you're not literally taking the bike. The times I do, what I do walk in there, I'm walking as close to the grass as I can. I'm walking the grass. You'll see, if you take that stroll, you'll see what I'm talking about. Some of you may already know that. But I do appreciate that the radar or whatever that thing is up there. I can see the speeds. I've stood on my front porch and I can see the one a little bit further down. I've sat on my lawn and watched the one there and the one there, and I see the difference in 36 hours. I don't know if that's going to continue. I'll let you know if you really want to know, but you did something. Thank you. I hope that's not the end all though for that portion of 183rd Street. It's doing something, but I still think we would. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Drag them all the way up to this. Amy Crump again. I have a couple of questions. Number one, how long will if you decided to do additional studies, how long would that take?
How long did the last study take? Couple of months.
Couple months, so we're not talking 2 years. Okay, number two. Can you use the grant money that you got for the study?
No,
Um,
phase 1 engineering and construction.
okay, and my third question is, you mentioned that if you pursued the road diet, that after phase 1 is over, phase 2 and phase 3, you don't know how much it's gonna cost. You did put $400,000 in the 2027 budget, but you don't know where the funding is going to be. However, when you guys were giving the great presentation about the 1% grocery tax, you mentioned that would be used to fund projects. So it is possible that you will have funds for phase 2 and phase 3 from the grocery taxes, which, as you said in your presentation, 80% of it, I believe, is being paid by people outside of Homewood.
Not grocery tax, the 1% non.
1% non-grocery tax, yes, the sales tax that you just approved. The 1% that you got to do because the state gave that special dispensation. You mentioned that that tax is being paid by about 80% of it is being paid by people outside of Homewood. And wouldn't it be great that we'll get to use it in Homewood, but it'll be paid by people outside of Homewood? And I'm just like, okay, so, you know, do the road diet and use that tax to pay for phase 2 and phase 3. Thank you.
So just to clarify on the 1% non-home rule sales tax, that goes into effect January 2026. We won't see any of that money. Now, that's a monthly installment by the state. So we won't see any of that money until the 3rd month. So it's a monthly installment. It's not like 3.5 million.
Capital only.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Anyone else like to address the board this evening? Yes, sir.
Eric Crump, Homewood, and you may know me as Homewood Councilman Chronicle. I am not speaking for the Chronicle, I'm speaking for myself as a former driver and current cyclist. Sold my car. Who needs it? The first thing I'm going to do is thank everybody in this room and all the people who have discussed this issue amongst themselves and on Facebook. We've had a really energetic but respectful discussion. There's a lot of different opinions out there. Some people firmly think this is a terrible idea, and they have said so, but they haven't been attacking each other. And it's been very productive. I've learned a lot from them, and they've forced me to go do more research. I've learned more in the past few weeks than I knew before, and I've been interested in this subject for a long time. So, but one thing I've noticed from that conversation is that road diets get unfairly picked on a lot. That's a form of travel that, if done in the right place, the right conditions, has worked for 3 decades all across this country. And the immediate response that a lot of people have is based on some assumptions because they're not familiar with road diet. They've never seen it before, maybe. There's a firm conviction a lot of people have that it will create congestion. And that's common sense. If you have 4 lanes and you take one away, surely it will create congestion. That doesn't in practice. The stretch of 183rd Street that we're talking about is actually kind of a sweet spot for a road diet. Its traffic is low enough. There have been road diets that have been done 20 to 25,000 cars per day on average. It goes from 15 down to 12. It also has distance between stoplights. People think of 183rd Street and think of the area from Dixie to Western or to Governors, and that is congestion quite often. But it's also got multiple stoplights in a short period of time and more cars. That's not the situation that we're referring to when we talk about a road diet on 183rd Street. There is, in fact, from my research, stability in the traffic on that stretch. I found an old newspaper article from the Star back in 1973 when Homewood's mayor at the time, William Maddow, were talking about the widening project, and he said there are 15,000 cars going by 183rd Street at Ashland. There's 15,000 cars going by there today. So even though things change a lot, traffic is really stable. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that 183rd Street's problems are actually created by 183rd Street, 5 4 lanes. There's a concept I learned. It's the basis for the fundamental law of congestion. Fundamental law of congestion says you add lanes, you will create congestion. And in fact, that's because of a concept called induced demand. If you widen the road, more people will say, look at that wide road. We're going to drive by it. And pretty soon it's full. And if you've driven up 90-94 into the city, as you get close to the city, you don't lose lanes, but you do lose speed.
All right.
And, okay, anyway, so I for option 2, let's go road.
Dressed up a little bit. Hi, I'm Steve Buckdall. I live on Berwick. So, option 1, presented by the village, is more steady, more data. You've already met the gold standard. IDOT gave you money. You presented to them a case, and they funded you. You don't need more data. You cleared that. You even found money to pay for phase 1. I don't know how that happens anymore. All the towns have to self-fund phase 1 these days before they'll award phase 2 and phase 3. Somehow you got that money too. They must have made a hell of a case for a road guy. So I don't know why they would go back and look at the information and call it data now. You got the money, go. That's how towns work. That's how the village of Homeland work. You get the money, you go. I don't know why this is stopped. Option 2 is the same option that you were presented with in early 2023. It's, do we self-fund this, or do we take the IDOT money and the red tape and additional costs that incurs? That was your decision in 2023. You didn't make it. So now we're here looking at 4 options and maybe not fixing 183rd Street at all. Option 3 was, someone remind me of option 3 was quick. Alternative corridor safety improvements. This is a grab bag approach. You should be doing that now. 183rd Street's dangerous. You know this, you have the crash data. You know why people are crashing, people are turning into driveways. In that grab bag are things like, let's lengthen left turn lanes. Let's put in flashing beacons. That's great at intersections. Every driveway is an intersection. So let's do left turn lanes for every driveway. Guess what you have? You have a road guide. You have a center turn lane. That's what that is. That's your fix. So anything you do out of that grab bag is fine, but you're not going to address the #1 cause of crashes on 183rd Street. That's people turning into their driveways. It's the angle crashes. It's the people turning in front of traffic that they can't see because it's blocked by other traffic. Nothing in that grab bag of other solutions addresses the top safety concern of 183rd Street. Turning into driveways, only the 4 to 3 conversion gets you. You can't consider fixing 183rd Street without addressing that biggest elephant in the room. The 4th option is just abdicating the village's obligation to keep residents safe and ensure high quality of life to public opinion. And that's not how, I know that's not how Homeland works. We don't need that. We're much more considerate than that. Thanks very much.
Winding down, is there anyone else who would like to address the board on this subject? If not, we have a police expert on our board, so let's start off with Trustee Simpson.
I'm gonna give a unique perspective on this because 1, I lived on 183rd Street for 10 years. 2, I was a police officer here in Homewood for almost 27. I've had traffic stops on 183rd Street. I responded to accidents. I understand the concerns. I'm gonna start off with the data. First off, the last gentleman spoke about the data. We're using data. No, absolutely not. There's a lot changed. First off, the study that we had was very limited. Number 2, it didn't take in, we talked about the barrels and things like that. You're not giving anybody decision-making. You're forcing them to go a certain way. That's not gonna provide accuracy. There was no adverse weather condition or season change that didn't account for any of that. The biggest thing is the changing conditions in our community. Number 1, the casino. Number 2, casino and revenue generating. Well, what happens there? People have to get there. The casino's continuing to grow. We are investing in our community, investing in a Hall Street corridor and in the downtown area. People have to get here. That is a big change. Associated with that, the other communities surrounded, like Glenwood, They continue to invest. Halsted Street, you see that Glenwood's investing more in Halsted Street, and that's growing there, more people. There's a lot of different things to consider for this. One of the biggest concerns is that the entire road diet is contingent on the center lane. And everyone says center lane, center lane, center lane, center lane contingent. So the police vehicles are supposed to go to center lane, the fire vehicles, garbage trucks, Amazon, postal, any commercial trucks. There's just not enough lanes there if you reduce it. That's my opinion. I am not in favor of the bike lane. I think that's highly dangerous. Public Works, if Public Works gets a water main break, or there's some type of road emergency there, that's gonna shut that entire road down. I just don't think there's enough information there to sustain implementing a road diet right now. Snow trucks, garbage removal, DoorDash, Uber Eats, school bus, postal, garbage, the displacement of traffic into the other areas. And I do not believe that engineering traffic congestion and agitating drivers is going to be an effective tool for managing that. My opinion is I do not support that at this time.
Is there a particular one that you do support?
Option 3.
Any back? Trustee Harris Jones.
I've listened to all of the comments, the concerns. I agree with that we need to do something about safety on 183rd. And then option 1, of course, as you guys stated, we do not need to do any more studies. We've done that, as you all stated. I'm gearing more to option 3 also. I'm agreeing with Trustee Simpson about option 3 because of the fact, myself, I drive down 183rd also. And there have been instances where our road kind of goes on a hill. So I'm driving and all of a sudden I see an emergency vehicle coming. And I'm thinking, I can't get to the right. I can't get to the right. I'm just stopped. I have to stop in the middle of the street because cars are on the right. I can't get over there, already stopped. So I'm thinking, is the emergency vehicle gonna hit me? Or is someone gonna hit me from the back? So I pretty much stopped and let the emergency vehicle pass me by, and I'm thinking, you know, it's scary to have emergency vehicles coming at you and you don't know if you can even get to the right to move over. That's the law. You're supposed to get to the right. On either side of the street, you're supposed to move over. You're not supposed to stop there. So if we're going to 4 to 3, where are we going? So my opinion is option 3.
Trustee Willis.
I agree with, I'm sure everybody on the board agrees with everyone's desire to see improved safety and reduce speeding on 183rd Street. The problem I have with the road diet is that the same drivers who refuse to operate their vehicles at a safe speed, the same ones who weave in and out of traffic, the same ones that a couple of you mentioned make U-turns around those ballards, are the same drivers who are going to use that center lane as a passing lane. And then instead of having predominantly rear end and angle crashes, we're going to have head-on crashes. And that really concerns me. The road diet simulation with the barrels, I think as Trustee Simpson said, was artificial because people couldn't weave in that third lane, that center lane, and use it as a passing lane. They were forced to comply. But that's not going to be the case. We know that there's people out there that are crazy. They're not going to respect that center lane. And I think that's going to present a huge problem. And because of that, that's the main reason I support the road diet. And I think option 3 is what I would support.
Okay,
One thing I'm learning, especially tonight, is that a safer 183rd Street is not as easy as 4 to 3. This is a complicated issue. In 22, there were the 4 open houses that were for residents of around 183rd. I attended all 4 of those, and I felt at the time the support was overwhelmingly for a road diet. There were some mitigation topics discussed, but there was overwhelming support. In September of 22, I supported it, subject to funding, and there's been a funding blip, but I'm just stating that as my original opinion. And I'm sorry if I'm going to jump around a little bit, as I just made notes, especially notes about things I've heard here tonight. It all matters. A turning lane, that center turning lane, when it was brought up that that's how you're going to have a kid cross a street, that's not an answer. That's really creates a real dangerous situation. I don't see the bike lanes as being functional bike lanes, but I do see high value in those bike lanes as being buffers for sidewalks that are incredibly dangerous. I live on Sycamore, and if I want to take, I have 2 or 3 or 4 routes I take to walk my dogs. If I want to walk anywhere near 183rd Street, well, I don't. I can't use 183rd because there's no way you can trust a dog on a short leash, even on a short leash, to not weave slightly, and the sidewalk is right on the traffic. And when there's trash cans there, forget it. There's no use of those sidewalks at all. It's really a dangerous situation. And again, I know I'm bouncing a bit here, but it was mentioned by Manager Haney that one of the 47 mitigation suggestions was the road diet. That's really, I think that doesn't represent it correctly. The road diet was the main suggestion. It wasn't, buried amongst trim a tree here and put a sign there. So I think it was heavily supported. Looking at all the options, the referendum, I think is kind of a waste of time on this, and we shouldn't delay things that way. Performing additional studies, I think the studies will determine. I don't know if it'll come up with anything that'll help us more to make the decision. It'll still be a rough decision, regardless of the outcome of the study. As far as pursuing the alternative corridor safety improvements, those should be detailed and in action immediately. The things that could be done immediately need to be done now. Leaving number 2, and with number 2 is going ahead with it. We have 2 options as far as the funding, and I will continue to support the road diet plan with the ITEP funding. So I don't change my opinion from years ago, and I'm sticking with it today. It's a tough balance. None of it is great, but I think the overwhelming safety for me in slowing down traffic and creating that buffer is highly needed.
Is there anything you'd like to add? Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add is, I did a lot of research on this, and I did speak to our police, our fire, public works officers, and a lot of residents. Residents were mixed, but public works and emergency responders were not in favor.
Trustee Roman?
Okay, I wrote down a lot and Trustee Hyperman hit on a couple of it. I guess I'll start with similar to Trustee Hyperman, and I was thinking up here who was on the board when we voted on this, and I can't remember, but I was always for the road diet. I was in favor of the road diet. I always thought the road diet was happening. When people would ask me about the road diet, I would say, oh, it's happening. We voted for it. It's happening. And then this all happened, and my thought was always, why would I be against something that I was already for? Like, what has changed? And then it's really interesting to me how different this experience has been than when we voted on it the last time. That's interesting what you said, that it seemed to be unanimous the last time. I felt the same way. It seemed like overwhelming support for the road diet. And now I've been approached multiple times. I told my husband the other day, I think more people have stopped me and asked me about the road diet than Calumet Country Club, which is really saying something. I've been stopped and multiple people have said, please don't support the road diet. But an overwhelming amount of people that live on 183rd support the road diet. So that's just kind of the background of what brought me to, and also my opinion has completely changed sitting here today. Because I said, why would I go against something that I already supported? But I have some questions also from the presentation. I actually wrote down, I tried to write down names to reference what people were saying, but Steve, you had said, we don't need a new study. I literally wrote that down. We do not need a new study, but that was in the very beginning when it was brought up. And then the more people that talked about the study, I thought, maybe we do need another study. I think more information would be beneficial, but that brings me to my first question about it. And what do we know? You mentioned phase 1 of a study. What would just an expanded areas of possible impact, identifying engineering, consulting for study, like what would all that cost? Do we know?
We don't know. For phase 1 study, we do not know.
Because I think it's silly to spend all that money on a phase 1 or on additional studying if the majority of the board doesn't support a road diet. I don't think that's responsible spending. But I do think it sounds like we don't have enough data today based on what the world is like today to move forward with a road diet. I also am curious if we have any examples of a road, we've talked, there was a lot of information in our presentation about how different people drive today than they did just pre-COVID, right? Do we have any examples of a road diet working post-COVID, one that was implemented post-COVID and it working? Yes, we do.
No.
So this, I can kind of speak, to just quickly speak on both questions. So, Trustee Roman, to your first question regarding the cost of the study, we do not know. We can use some data points that are helpful, such as the original study by Burns and McDonald, which was relatively limited to the accidents and the traffic, was 136,000, I believe. Note that inflation is a factor, that cost would probably go up. But that's something you can at least use to consider, that traffic studies are not cheap. But then regarding the second question about road diets and success stories, as was mentioned in the presentation, and I believe by some of the public comments, that's something that the Federal Highway Administration and other bodies do publish success stories and case studies. There's also failures as well. And so, as was mentioned, what might be helpful in that instance is to, again, kind of look at those, but kind of side by side, but there have been ones that have been published since the end of the pandemic in 2020.
And they're same data, kind of. Some are successful, some are not.
We would have to look closer at those studies, but they do exist, that there would be some that show, again, lessons learned and also success stories.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, and then I also kind of felt like, so it's in Amy Crump, I had the same thought that you did about the 400,000 and the TBD, like if we have 400,000 earmarked for it. So it's in our 2027 capital plan as earmarked as a potential 2027 project. So, and I don't want to sound like we're just continuing to kick the can, but I do feel like there's an overwhelming amount of people who are against the road diet. So I'm sitting here thinking, I think we should move forward. I mean, hold on, let me go to option 3. What are some of the things that we could do, like tangible things, ASAP, what can we do to help 183rd? I know we talked about police enforcement, but we're already doing that. So what else can we do now to help?
There are road restrictions that we could do off of 183rd, all those side streets that come to. Anything on 183rd would have to go through some phase 1 evaluation and IDOT input. But all those side streets, any of those 47 recommendations covering those, staff can discuss and go.
Are there any that are top of mind to any of the staff members that you're like, I think this is a great idea, we should implement this soon?
I would have to look at the recording and then that answer.
Okay.
And trustee, mine would be, so as it relates to enforcement, chief can speak better to this. So we have a limited amount of police, right? On the street every shift. When we want to do target enforcement for 183rd Street, 187 Ridge or Governors, we have to do an overtime roster to target that street. One of the options when we say fully targeted police enforcement would be to take additional resources and target exclusively 183rd Street during certain high times of traffic. We know those times. We know when people are hot, desire to travel 183rd. It will be taking those additional resources. It costs money to do overtime roster, continual overtime roster exclusively for 183rd Street. And that's voluntarily. That's voluntary. You can't tell the police officer after they finish a 12-hour shift, you must go here. It has to be a voluntary overtime shift. But that's one of the full targeted police enforcement. They do it in every community. Every community, that street that you dare not drive 1 mile per hour over the speed limit. We could, with some additional funding, some additional staffing. Well, it's just a exorbitant cost, and it would have to be some discussions. But that's when we say fully targeted police enforcement, that's what.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm 100% for that. Having somebody there, I know we say that they can't be there 24/7, but they can. We just have to pay them. So we got to figure that out, right?
Or maybe a resource of additional officers. Again, we have a limited amount of sworn officers.
Right.
We have a lot of problems, a lot of challenges, that being Halsted Street or other areas that we're trying to cover. That may mean additional resources to PD to deal with this issue.
Right. Is it still difficult to recruit police officers?
Well, we are currently at full staff.
Okay, and then if we go with option number 3, is there anything that we could do about the sidewalk situation?
Part of your evaluation.
It's a right-of-way issue. We would have to talk to IDOT, but that would mean acquiring additional right-of-way to expand that sidewalk, which would mean acquiring additional property to expand those sidewalks.
Right.
So that's a monster undertaking to say. I mean, we quick take authority in the domain, yes, but that's a monster undertaking.
Still getting up to speed, so this all kicked off prior to my arrival here to the whole team. So I'm still getting up to speed working with all the staff here. So when I say more evaluation, I genuinely mean that. Like, there are options out there, it's just hunting that down, providing that data to you to decide, and internal selection, talking about all the different options.
Okay, so those are my, last thing are the legal options. I can't remember who mentioned it. Maybe who has the daughter who is some blowing that red light. Can we turn that into a red light camera?
I mean, there are studies that, much like anything concerning IDOT and traffic safety, there are studies that have to be done to see if it would meet the criteria.
Got it, okay. Okay, so those are my questions about the option number 3. So my thought process is we start implementing these things that are option number 3, but the road diet stays in our capital plan as the 2027 earmarked funds. Like, I don't think that we should remove it as earmarked funds, because I think that if we implement everything that we possibly can from option number 3, and it's not fixing the problem, then we need to have a solution down the road. So that's my thought is, yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
I went over my 3 minutes.
You get 4. Bill Mason, one of our trustees, is not able to be here tonight. He's working in Philadelphia. He did send a memo. If village clerk could please read it.
Trustee Mason's statement. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow trustees and members of the community. I want to start by stating that I am very disappointed that I'm unable to be with you in person this evening due to my work obligation. This is a very important issue for our community, and I appreciate being able to have my thoughts shared on the record. I recognize that the intent of the potential road diet for 183rd Street is to reduce driver speeding and increase resident safety. Especially in light of the serious accidents we've seen on this route, I absolutely share that concern, as keeping our residents and children safe must always be our priority. That said, I'm not prepared to support converting 183rd to a 3-lane configuration at this time. I say this with respect for the many perspectives shared. I have listened to the residents, spoken with staff, and reviewed that available data, but important questions remain. I'm not convinced that this process is the best path forward to change the problematic behaviors of drivers on 183rd Street. Further, there are no strong projections for population density and business development and how this lane reduction could impact safety and traffic flow over the coming years. The information presented does not clearly depict the effect that this change could potentially have on arterial streets and the surrounding community. Because 183rd Street is a major thoroughway, I'm not convinced of a road diet's effect on residents' ability to enter and leave driveways, emergency vehicle access, snow removal, and parcel deliveries. Lastly, I deeply believe that the ills of drivers' behavior on 183rd Street can ultimately be reduced with consistent and targeted enforcement. Regular visible enforcement, along with the placement of additional traffic controls, can go a long way toward changing driver habits. I would welcome working with Police Chief McGrath and her capable team on an enforcement plan or any other recommendations they might have. I want to be sure we support Homewood Police Department with the resources they need to be better ensure the safety of this community. I'm not yet sure that we will fully understand the complexities of this potential change, and because of that, I prefer option 3 at this time. Thank you for allowing my statement to be read tonight, and thank you to everyone for working hard on behalf of our community. Philip Mason.
Thank you. I'd like to compliment staff on the excellent presentation. It doesn't make our decision any easier. However, it does add clarity to it. In addition to those who have been coming to the board meetings, I've heard a lot of comments from individuals who are opposed to lane reductions. Their rationale is that it would lead to heavier traffic on nearby streets and more congestion on 183rd Street. I believe option 3 at this time is probably the right way to go. And I feel staff should be directed to continue increased police enforcement and assess and recommend tools that can address traffic safety concerns without road configuration. And Jack, to your comments with regard to the speed signs that have gone in, you say they're working.
36 hours.
We'll keep an eye on it. Get back to us and we'll put more on the street. We'll light up the street with those as well. But I think that's important. With all that being said, or as a decision this evening, is there a motion to proceed with one of these recommendations?
Make a motion to proceed with option 3.
Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion made by trustee Simpson, seconded by trustee Willis for option 3 to be implemented. Roll call, please.
Trustee Harris Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Willis.
Aye.
Trustee Heiferman.
I actually have a confusion here. I support option 3, but I also support, I don't want to exclusively say that 3 is good enough. I still support 2 as well as 3.
I think we'll evaluate things as they proceed.
Okay. So I'm going to vote no, demonstrating my support
Understood.
of option 2.
Understood.
Oh, trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Roman.
Well, I'm glad trustee Hefferman just asked that because I was reading the language up there. By supporting option number 3, we're not eliminating the option to have the road diet down the road. correct?
Can always bring it back if option 3 isn't working.
And I'm sorry, can I ask another question about what stays in the capital plans? But we vote on that.
Correct, budget time.
Okay, but the 5-year plan that we put in place, that also that's voted at the same time as the budget plan?
Correct. And we'll be bringing that back to you as funding, as we identify funding sources to fund each year.
Okay, then I'll support option 3. Yes.
All right, option 3 is approved. Thank everyone for being here this evening. Appreciate your comments, and we will stay in touch. Thank you all. No. No, folks. Folks, the meeting's not over. The meeting's not over.
We haven't dismissed yet.
We're just. With all that being said, new business, the acceptance of the 24-25 annual financial report, Mr. Kowski.
So as you all know, each year we come and bring the annual financial report, or as most of us refer to it as the audit for the village board acceptance. So the audit tells us how we ended up compared to the budget, is the village became a this position, and what are some areas of concern. Those are all questions that we in the finance department are evaluating all throughout the year, but the audit kind of gives that final scorecard to all of you. And then we use those results as we prepare for the next. So we work with Lauterbach and Heyman once again to audit our financial records and internal controls, and thank you to Don Shop here and very patiently waiting. And we'll be available to answer some questions related to the audit. A highlight from this year's audit is that the village's overall net position has increased by nearly 19%. That is net position is a useful indicator of the village's overall fiscal health and whether it's improving, deteriorating, or we're doing well. A significant amount of time is spent working in and analyzing the village's general fund. We've heard us talk about the general fund quite a lot. It's where the majority of the village's revenues, taxes, and fees come in, and where most of the village's expenses, such as salaries and benefits, services, are paid out of. After all of that is recorded, if our revenues are doing better than expenses, then the remaining funds are added to the village's fund balance or reserves. So a healthy fund balance allows the village to have protection against any internal or external factors that might affect the village's ability to continue to provide the high level of services to our residents. So this year, the village was able to add about $2.5 million to the general fund reserves, and that was a net of quite a few things that were going on during the year. One being the Wind Creek Casino opened in November 2024. So we were about halfway through our fiscal year. And the budgeted amount for the gaming tax was very conservative during this budget because at the time of preparing the budget, there were a lot of unknowns. We didn't know officially when the budget was going to open. So as we always do, we're very conservative on that. Going forward, we have a better idea of how the casino and the gaming tax will bring to the village. Our interest rates have continued to provide a good return on the village's investments. We are starting to see them go down a bit, but the rates have worked well for the village over the last couple of years. Kind of an unusual situation in this audit is that there were 2 non-TIC properties that were acquired during the fiscal year. One was 18155 Dixie Highway, which is Old Delano's, and 17701 French Drive. So being that those properties are being held for sale, kind of accounting rules require that we have to record the value of those properties. in the year they're acquired. So that kind of increases our revenue, but then once hopefully we actually are able to move those properties on, any gain or loss for the property will be reported in a future year. And then lastly, our general fund expenses came in at 93% of what was budgeted. That's pretty common here in the village. The departments do a really great job of managing their budgets. But a lot of times it's due to open and unfilled positions and some business incentives that we plan for. Sometimes the timing of the project completion doesn't work out within the fiscal year. I know Chief mentioned earlier that we are fully staffed in the police department, so that's kind of been the department that we've had those open and unfilled positions. So we expect this current year budget, when we get to audit time, we won't see this effect as much. So the village's total reserves is at approximately $20 million. That's broken out into different categories. Of that 20 million, about 16.5 is what is considered unassigned. And the village fund balance policy indicates that we need to have at least 5 months of that unassigned dollars available in reserves. So we're currently at about 7. So we do have some money available to spend, to be spent according to the priorities that were established in that fund balance policy when it was approved in 2023. So village staff will be coming forward once again at a future meeting to kind of provide some recommendations of where we feel those funds should be used based on those priorities. The biggest needs are capital and pension funding that will need to be addressed. So we will continue to monitor financial data, watch for trends. We'll use this information as we move forward in our next budget process, which is upcoming, and we'll make recommendations to the village board as we see fit. Again, we always appreciate your support throughout the year. We're hoping to continue to keep Homewood financially stable for years to come. You all have the hard copy of the audit in front of you, but it will be available on the village website tomorrow. So if anybody can take a look, and if you have any questions, please reach out to myself or anyone in the finance department. Now, finally, we'll have John come forward. He has just a few things to kind of report within the annual financial report and answer questions.
Thank you for having me. I'd first like to thank Amy, Lindsay, and the entire staff for making this yet another successful audit year. Without their help, this is not possible, so thank you. Next thing, go through the annual financial report with you, which is the thicker the package you received. And if you turn to page 10, you'll find our water box and even letterhead. This is our independent audit report, which is providing a clean, unmodified opinion. It's a highest opinion you can receive. Basically states that we found no issues with internal controls or the numbers that they're presenting. And David, you did an excellent job on the summaries. The only two other items I did want to point out to you is on page 154. Page 154 is the historical data trends for your property tax collections. And you'll notice in the current year, that bottom number, you're slightly lower than what you have historically in the past collections. The next page I want to point out is on page 158. Page 158 shows the historical trends of your outstanding obligations. And you'll notice that the primary government, there's about $3 million outstanding, which is significantly lower than the legal debt limit of 45 million that you're left with. Any questions?
Any questions from the board with regard to the audit?
No questions, but thank you for your thoroughness with this. And Amy, thank you as always, and the staff for your hard work and giving us a positive result.
Let's ask for any audience comments. Gentleman in back. Thought I picked on you. That's all right. That's all right. Trustee Willis.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks so much.
Trustee Hyberman.
No comments.
Trustee Simpson.
No comments.
Trustee Roman.
No comments or questions, just thank you very much for everything.
Once again, we're solidly financially sound. And as we have been in the past, and we continue to be.
Absolutely.
All right. With all that being said, may I have a motion from the board to accept the fiscal year 24-25 annual financial report?
Second.
Been moved by trustee Hyperman, seconded by trustee Harris Jones. Roll call, please.
Trustee Harris Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Willis.
Aye.
Trustee Hyperman.
Aye.
Trustee Simpson. Trustee Roman.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Thank you again.
Thank you.
General board discussion. Trustee Harris Jones.
I just want to acknowledge the hard work of all of our staff with the Fall Fest. It was well attended. It was fantastic. We had a big crowd, food trucks, music, entertainment, activities. It was very well received.
Trustee Willis.
Absolutely, Fall Fest was fabulous. Had a great time there. I just want to thank everybody who was here tonight. Really important and a great discussion. Yeah, this is the way it should be done. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Trustee Hyperman.
I know it's late, but I'm gonna bring up another topic, and I'm gonna make reference to the study of 22. And when it was presented, I brought it up at that meeting, that there was a huge flaw in the study. It described various intersections along 183rd, and it completely ignored the two deaths that occurred at Gottschalk on 183rd. It was the elephant in the room. It was incredible that it was ignored. I believe that those two deaths could very well, and I have no idea if this is not factual, but it's very possible that the difficulty at that intersection, which kind of tees into houses across the street, as you're heading southbound, there's a fence on the corner of 183rd and Gottschalk that should have been removed years ago. I've been told over the years, I brought it up various times, and I've been told it's grandfathered in. I say with or without the grandfather, something needs to be done regarding that fence. Can we explore new tools? Maybe things have changed.
I believe at some point in time during last year or this year, we reached out to the owner. We were rejected. I believe you had an opportunity. I think
He doesn't seem receptive.
we reached out to the owner, and we've talked with Chris about property ownership.
I'm happy to revisit the issue. The problem is it's on their private property but I'm happy to look at it again.
And it's a glaring hazard.
It's a difficult turn if you're not aligned in exactly the right place.
Yeah.
You're pulling out in traffic to
Yeah.
see.
It's a glaring block of sight.
Mhm.
And it's ironic that they had 4 to 3 signs on the lawn, making it even worse. But we need to revisit it. Whether we buy the property and get rid of the fence, whatever it takes, we need to.
Good point. Trustee Simpson.
Thank the staff for the 183rd Street presentation. That was obviously involved. I appreciate that. And for the financial audit, a lot of good information. Great job at the open house at the fire department. Fire department did very well. I think the chief said maybe 500 people came through. Great time. Excellent turnout at the Fall Fest. Many residents said they appreciated the fest being later in the year. I wrote a letter today. I think we'll probably talk about it at another board meeting, but I saw an exceptional act by a police officer during that time. I wrote that to village manager Napoleon Heaney, so we'll bring that up later. I said it before, the successes at these fests, they don't happen by chance. They don't. It's the hard work for our police, our fire, our public works, it's strategic planning and their efforts. Everyone thinks, oh, it was great, nothing happened. That's not why it's successful. That's not why it's safe. It's because our hard work and dedication. And I appreciate all that, and special thanks to Marla, Angela, and Antonio for what they all did. And last, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of a former Homewood Police Reserve Officer, Ed Poe. I'm going to read from Chief McGrath's email that she put out to everyone. Officer Poe was hired as a reserve officer in April of '98 Had served until May of 1986 with the police department. He returned to the department in 2004 and remained a valued member of the police department until the program was eliminated in 2021. Ed was a great guy, always high energy, served very proudly and honorably with us, and he was always a great help to the full-time police officers. He'll be missed. That's all I have.
Trustee Roman.
I'll piggyback on what trustee Heffernan said. I feel like I keep saying that, but, I actually wrote down what happened to one-way got chalk. So if we can't do anything, because I agree that fence is terrible. If we can't do anything, maybe I know a one-way got chalk was one of the 47 items. Oh, you're looking like that's a terrible idea, but I think that it's worth revisiting. If it's a terrible intersection and we can't do anything about the fence, I think the reason it didn't move forward was because the residents on Gottschalk didn't support it, but, it's worth revisiting. I'll just echo everything. What do you want to add?
The residents on Cockshot wanted to turn that into a cul-de-sac. And block it from underneath.
Oh,
Right, that's what I thought of, and so you can't
There
leave.
were two considerations, the one way and as well as.
Oh, right.
Wait,
I'm
over.
sorry. I said one way, but that's what they wanted to end it there so that you
Maybe
could go out onto
cul-de-sac.
183rd, right? Maybe it's an option from, or maybe it's something to consider from option number 3. Yeah, that's it. Just the events were great. Please no whistles next time at the fire department open house because I threw them all in the garbage because my children drove me crazy. Yes, thank you. No sirens either. Anything that makes noise, not allowed in my house.
Compliment staff this evening, no, rest of the staff on the presentation. What we saw this evening was the way government should function. Respect from all parties, for all parties, and the village of Homewood should be complimented on that. Chief, you have your marching orders as far as enforcement goes. If there's anything further you need, get back to the village manager, he will get back to the board. You have carte blanche to do what you have to do for better enforcement, and we sincerely mean that. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Been moved by trustee Roman, seconded by trustee Simpson. Roll call, please.
Trustee Harris Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Willis.
Aye.
Trustee Heiferman. Trustee Simpson.
Aye.
Trustee Roman.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you all.